Okay, we're about to start our panel. And I want to say Shabbat Shalom and to welcome everybody here to our continuation program marking World Refugee Shabbat. And at this point, let me give a special welcome both to our panelists and to particular guests, Maren Lehman-Bender, the director of AURA, the Anglican United Refugee Alliance, to Simret Tekala, director of the Eritrean Women's Community Center in Tel Aviv, to Eden Tesmafarian and Solomon Gebramariam, senior community mediators of ASAF, the aid organization for asylum seekers. We're also delighted to be joined by several Israel activists and sponsors of asylum seekers, Bruchim Habayim. But which reminds me, before I forget, let me say that we're planning a program later this spring about the difficult situation faced by Eritrean and Sudanese asylum seekers in Israel, how we can help bring some of them here. But today, we're focusing on what refugees need to help them settle, adjust, and integrate into their new life in Canada, and how we can help that. And in the process, the enormous satisfaction and joy that we can get by our participation in this process. First, ground rules. The panel is being recorded, and if you are uncomfortable with that, please turn your camera off. We're muting everybody to avoid stray background noises disturbing us. So panelists, when you're ready to speak, unmute yourself. As for questions, well, please type them into the chat. At the end of the program, we'll try to get through as many of them as we can. But enough of me. Now for the panel. First, Jody Block, who's a manager of community involvement at JIAS, the Jewish Immigrant Aid Society, and who, as you've heard, is a co-sponsor of this World Refugee Shabbat. And next we'll have Valentina Hello in conversation with Naomi Alboin. Valentina will be joined by her sister Sophia and her son Mohammed. As you've heard, 5 years ago, Valentina, her husband and 3 sons arrived in Toronto, refugees from Syria, sponsored by the congregation. And now, oh well, you can see for yourself. After that, Charna Cohen, who among other things is a volunteer coordinator extraordinaire. Then Danny Shield, who's the founder and chair of CHAI, that's Canadians Helping Asylum Seekers in Israel, and who'll explain what we're expecting to happen here in Toronto over the next 2 years. And finally, our own Rabbi Tina. But again, let's begin. So over to you, Jody.
Hi, everyone. Hi, Rabbi Tina, and many of the friends I've met over time, given your involvement with refugees, and to the whole congregation, Shabbat Shalom. And thank you so much for including JIAS, which is Jewish Immigrant Aid Services, in your congregation and your program today, and for letting me give a little bit of background about the organization and sort of frame this event in the context of Refugee Shabbat, which, as was mentioned, was started in the US by JIAS's American counterpart, HIAS, in an effort to engage Jews around the world in thinking about, learning about, and supporting refugees. A few brief words about JIAS. So as some of you may know, JIAS was established almost 100 years ago now. We're actually celebrating our 100th anniversary in 2022 to welcome and support Jewish refugees. And over the last 100 years, JIAS has helped welcome Jewish refugees from around the world. But today we continue to welcome Jewish newcomers. We're also a partner of the Canadian government in welcoming diverse newcomers. And we're also a sponsorship agreement holder, which Darche Noam knows well because you've sponsored in partnership with Jaius, Syrian family, who we're going to be hearing from today. We work with community partners to sponsor and bring refugees to Canada. And we also work with refugees who have been sponsored by the government and have come to Canada in different ways. So I'm really looking forward to hearing from Valentina and seeing how the family is doing. And it's been a pleasure working with many members of your congregation over the years. You know, what is indisputable is that while the refugee crisis is not on the front pages of our newspapers or top of our web browsers these days, it is, as Naomi talked about extensively, a worsening crisis. And so it's heartening to be here in a congregation where so many people are still engaged around this issue, because the issue is not going away. So Refugee Shabbat is really a time to pause and remember this with all that's been going on over this last year, this very, very difficult year in lots of ways. And for many of us, you know, as privileged as we are, it's been a difficult year for everyone. So it's a time to pause and remember this, and to, you know, think about the implications of even a pandemic like this on people who are already so vulnerable, to celebrate some of the great work that's being done to help refugees, but also to hear the stories and challenges of refugees, and you know, to be aware that the challenges they face are only on the rise. I'm just going to be a few more minutes. Jaius is sort of unique in that we're a SOS, so we're the only Jewish sponsorship agreement holder in Canada, but we're also primarily a settlement agency. So no matter how newcomers come to Canada, whether as refugees or economic immigrants or family sponsorship, however people come to Canada, we're supported by the Canadian government to provide a full basket of settlement services. And our settlement staff work with each newcomer to develop a settlement plan that addresses their needs: social, financial, educational, civic, you name it. We have 2 LINK schools. LINK stands for Language Instruction to Newcomers to Canada, one in Toronto and one in York Region, where permanent residents study English at no cost. And we offer all kinds of informational and life skills workshops, as well as ongoing programs to help newcomers connect with people, programs, and resources in our community. So everything from financial literacy or navigating Canadian systems, to parenting and cultural norms in Canada, to weekly volunteer-led conversation circles. And all of this has been online during COVID. And actually, in part because people have been so hungry for connection, we've in many cases engaged much larger groups of people than we have in person, with almost 130 newcomers participating in weekly online conversation circles that are led by volunteers, where they can connect with other people, you know, speak in English, practice their English, and just feel a sense of community. So I guess I want to just emphasize a few things. One, if you encounter newcomers, and when I say newcomers, obviously there haven't been a lot of people coming to Canada over this last year, but, you know, think about the fact that if people came in the year before the pandemic, how their settlement process was upended, right? So when we talk about newcomers, we usually see people between who have been here between, you know, from the time they arrive up until 3 and sometimes even 5 years, depending on their situation. So if you're encountering newcomers in your life in any context, please feel free to send them to Jaius. There's kind of a misconception that only newcomers in financial need would go to a settlement service provider, but that is not the case. We provide all kinds of programs and services to help people rebuild their networks, connect in a meaningful way, find entry points to different parts of community and society life, and settle in Canada. If you're involved with refugees in a refugee sponsorship, unaffiliated with Jaius, so as a member of a group of 5 maybe, or through another SAW, we are a settlement agency. So while we would still love to help welcome those refugees that you're supporting. So the private sponsorship model has incredible benefits, and research in the field has shown that the social connections developed through those sponsorships and the hands-on support that volunteers are providing, that makes a crucial difference. But settlement is a long and complicated process, and the more support that's available, the better. So there's no reason not to work hand in hand with a settlement agency. And moreover, when we look at that model, which is so powerful and engages, you know, people like all of us on the screen in helping to support newcomers, there's no reason why other vulnerable newcomers who don't have that built-in sponsorship network shouldn't benefit from that kind of networking, right? So what we try to do is engage volunteers to recreate that kind of volunteer network that's inherent in the sponsorship model. To provide wraparound support. So maybe one person has a weekly meeting with them to practice English, another's helping kids with their homework, another's helping them learn how to get around the city, et cetera, et cetera. You heard from Naomi before, there's lots and lots of different roles that people play in the settlement process as volunteers. And finally, I guess I just want to reiterate how lucky we are to live in a country whose government is committed to immigration and to humanitarian immigration, and how amazing it is that so many people in our community and in this congregation have been engaged in welcoming refugees and newcomers and remain committed to this work. So if you're interested in making a difference for immigrants and newcomers through hands-on volunteerism, it sounds like, I know, and speaking to Danny, I know that there is an opportunity to assist with this new sponsorship of a Eritrean family being sponsored by Chai. And we hope and we pray that this pandemic is subsiding and that borders are opening and that we'll be welcoming newcomers, new arrivals to Canada. But in the meantime, I want to make clear that there are so many vulnerable refugees and other newcomers already in the GTA. Whose settlement has really been upended. They've struggled with society's shift to virtual platforms. And I'm proud to say that JIAS has, done some really good work hooking up Yazidi refugees and other vulnerable refugees who really weren't plugged into technology. We've set them up and we're seeing some really good participation in things, but people are struggling with the technology. They're struggling with their kids' online learning. In many cases, the parents don't have language skills. They're maybe, illiterate even in their own language. They don't have the education to support their kids on learning, and those kids are really struggling. So we're doing online tutoring for the kids and other kinds of school support. And there's, of course, we're all suffering from, prolonged isolation. And in the case of vulnerable newcomers, that's even more the case. So there's lots and lots of roles for volunteers to play in the meantime. Our work has always relied on the participation of community members. And during the pandemic, I would say all the more so. We've been, really been able to volunteers have helped us expand our programs to meet needs. So in closing, I just want to say thank you again for having JIAS be part of this program. Thank you for your ongoing work to support refugees and other newcomers. And to learn more or to volunteer with JIAS, you're welcome to contact me. I'll connect you with our, plug you in the right place. We're also going to be having a session on March 18th that actually Naomi Alboim will be also helping us with and presenting at. So I'll send information to the congregation, and that's about sponsorship, private sponsorship, and also other ways to support refugees in our community. And that's all. I just want to say Shabbat Shalom. Thank you so much for the opportunity to be part of this, and I'm looking forward to the rest of the program.
So it's our turn, Valentina and Mahmoud and Sophia. Could you unmute? You're unmuted. Hi, Valentina.
Hi,
Sophia,
Hi, Naomi.
And Mahmoud. I'm delighted to introduce you to our members of our synagogue, many of whom you've already met and many of whom you already know. And everybody's really, really happy to see you. So just before I start, of course, I should have known better. When I thanked everybody during the Dvar Torah, of course, I forgot some names. And I just want to mention two people who have really been stellar now working with the family. And that is Howell Gottlieb. Thank you so much, Howell. And Rick Robbins. Rick is helping Mahmoud. He's tutoring Mahmoud now in school. Yeah. And Hal is still working with the family in terms of their educational needs. So I'm sorry I forgot their names earlier, but thank you, thank you. So now we turn to Valentina. And I'm just going to ask you some questions, and then I'll ask Mahmoud, and then I'll ask Sophia. So Valentina,
yes.
Try in your mind to go back 5 years. You've just arrived in Canada. You've just seen your sister for the first time in 5 years, and it's the first time you've met some members of the sponsor group. How do you feel?
Hi, everybody. I'm so lucky for sponsor, for my sponsor, for all body. I cannot say name. First, when I arrived to Canada, I'm so happy because my life back, it's so bad for my child, for my family, and for everything. And when I came to Canada, it's like when you drink dirty water, and when you came to Canada, it's clean water. It's different life for me and for my family. It's it's very good, and I have a lot of things I want to say, but how I can say it's so hard. And when I see my sister Sophia, of course, I'm crying so much because I am sit in back people in bus. I cannot see my sister fast go. I saw for people. I told him, give me, give me. I want to see my sister. When I see my sister, I cry a lot. My sister cry a lot too. And about my sponsor group, about my family. I didn't have only one in my family color. I have my sponsor. I have my Jewish, all my Jewish. Before, when people say Jewish, it's people not good. But when I live with him, when I speak with him, it's changing my head, everything. I see it's nice people. It's like a love to help, to give, and didn't take, only to give. All sponsor, all group who help me for school, for work, for smile, for happy. I will, if I say 5 years, thank you, it's not enough. I want to say a lot thing, but maybe I cry if I say everything, but I don't like cry today. I want to happy. I want all people see me, I'm happy today. I don't like cry. Because 5 years, when I think I have good sponsor, I cry. I didn't forget anything for my sponsor. If she give me something or tell me something and help me something, it's different. Now I am old, 37. I didn't see any people like my sponsor. I would like to do something for my sponsor, if volunteer or something or anything. I don't say no for my sponsor. No, and thank you for all body.
Thank you, Valentina.
Thank you.
Thank you. So I hope that everybody heard that last line. Valentina wants to volunteer, which is like the perfect circle. You know, she is grateful for what she was able to accomplish here, and now she wants to give back others too. Thank you, Valentina. So
Thank you.
I'm going to turn now to Mahmoud.
Yeah.
With all your curly hair. So Mahmoud was a little boy when he arrived 5 years ago.
Yeah.
You were 10, I think, when you arrived. You were 10. Oh, well, there was a confusion whether you were with birth dates. I remember that. But you were a much younger boy than you are today.
Yeah.
So tell us, Mahmoud, about your experiences here in Canada, and what do you really like about being here?
So there's so much stuff that I love about being here. One of them is obviously the freedom that we couldn't have in Syria or Lebanon. And another big one is camp. Since you can't take any technology and stuff, it's nice to move away from it and move more into sports. And another very big one is the education system in Canada. So I don't know how do I remember this, but in Syria, when I was in grade 1, the way to success was to memorize stuff. So the teacher will give you a paragraph where the next day you have to come and write it down, and that's it for the test. But in Canada, it's more than that. I believe the education in Canada is way better, and let's see, yeah, it's way better.
Well,
There's so much more that I love about Canada, but I couldn't think of more stuff because I wrote these notes at 12 a.m. in the morning.
like any teenager would.
Yeah.
Well, Mahmoud, for people who don't know, he only had 1 year of education in Syria.
Yeah.
And while in Lebanon, the kids were not able to go to school.
Yeah.
And Mahmoud, you've caught up so wonderfully. You're
Thank you.
really doing well. So tell me remember when I asked you, what do you want to do after you graduate from high school?
So I'm thinking of going into business, the business industry, but I'm not sure yet since I think it's too early to decide, right? It's either I feel like I want to go to business school, finish that, and then I feel like I want to go to the I want to go into education and teach ESL.
Really?
Yes, I feel like I want to do that.
So
I want to teach people from other countries as my ESL teacher did.
that's great. That's great. Now, Sophia, I'm going to turn over to you. Maybe you can turn the camera.
Hi, everyone.
So Sophia was the anchor for this family. She worked incredibly hard with us at the sponsor group to put all the applications together with Jayas. She was our rock. She really helped us with everything that needed to be done before the family arrived and after. And it's just been a pleasure, an absolute pleasure to
It's my
get
pleasure.
Sophia. So tell us how you felt about the whole exercise.
Okay. Hi, everyone, and thank you so much for letting me be with you in this meeting. I would like to say thank you for everyone at Jayas or Darhi Naum Senegak. They helped me a lot. They support my sister and her family and even me. They give me all the love and all the care and happiness that I can feel. They are my second family here in Canada. And, you know, we had a lot of beautiful days and memories. I will always remember them. And so many beautiful things. Like,
Thank you, Sophia. So one of the things about what made our sponsorship so special was the family reunification part, because there's nothing better than being with your family members, and the opportunity to bring these two sisters, but the third sister together with your mother,
yes.
And with all the cousins. I mean, it's been really quite special. Is there anything else that any of you want to say? We have to go on to the next speaker, who you know very well. Sharna is going to be the next speaker. But Valentina or Mahmoud or Sophia, is there anything you want to add? Valentina?
No.
No?
Just
Okay.
add something like as Valentina said, we always wish to repaying you, like by volunteering on or helping with anything with Jazz or Darkhinaum Senegal. Anything like you want, we're here, we're available.
That's great. Thank you. Mahmoud, any last word to you?
If there's any, like everyone else said, if there's anything else, if like some other people came from other countries that if you guys want me to translate, I would love to do that.
Okay. Well, thank you, and big hugs and kisses
Thank you.
from all of us.
Thank
And you can stay on now, and over
you.
to Sharna.
Okay.
Mute can.
Well, it's really a hard act to follow. I'm not sure what else there is to say. I mean, I think hearing from Naomi, both in terms of the overview, the big picture, policy issues, hearing from the family about their own immediate experience. I mean, this is what's most important. So I'll just share a few words from my my position or experience, both as a volunteer, as someone connected to the family who I feel such tremendous affection for. I hope I won't cry. It's a little hard not to. And just from my experience as on the steering committee and the volunteer coordinator. So, you know, I'm just going to echo, I think, and punctuate a number of the important points that have been made up to now. We know that our community, Dar Chinom, is a community of doers. You know, nothing happens in our shul without the dedicated participation of our members. We run our weekly services in person, online. Today was amazing. We support each other in all phases of our life. We act locally and we act globally to make our world a better place. And the value of Tikkun Olam animates and motivates so many of us. So it's no surprise that we were, as Naomi said, the first synagogue in Toronto to sponsor a Syrian refugee family. And it's no surprise that members of Dar Chinom are now mobilizing again to bring to Canada a group of Eritrean asylum seekers from Israel. So when I was asked to join the steering committee, I'd never worked with refugees before. I'd never had any experience. When I've asked to be the volunteer coordinator, I was really gratified to be able to bring some of my experiences from out of the cold to that project. So it's from that perspective that I'll share just some brief thoughts that I hope will inspire you and motivate you to get involved in this next settlement opportunity. So as Naomi painted the picture of the arrival of the family, and as she was asking Valentina and Sophia about those moments, I was transported back to starting more than 5 years ago, when we started to prepare and welcome and support Mohammed and Valentina and their children. The lead up to their arrival was a huge flurry of activity, from fundraising, organizing volunteers to perform the upcoming needed tasks, finding and preparing the family's new home. There was just so much to do. There were so many things to be done, and there were so many columns in my spreadsheet, and I'll be happy to share that with you when the time comes. I remember the incredible excitement and anticipation as we learned with fits and starts about the actual departure date of the family. When would it be? I mean, it was really unclear. There was a lot of drama about getting them to the airport in Lebanon and when they would be able to actually get on a plane. And as bits and pieces of information trickled back to us, just the anticipation and the excitement just mounted. We tracked their flight. We heard about their landing. And finally, the meeting of the family the morning after their arrival was just an incredibly, profoundly moving experience. Seeing Valentina and Mohammed and their boys in that hotel room, finally safe and reunited with Sophia, was truly overwhelming. The warm embraces provoked an unbelievable flood of tears, which still come when I think about it. And I wondered, like, how could I already care so much for these people who I'd never met and who I absolutely did not know? But I really, really did. And the myriad of experiences, both pragmatic and social, that unfolded from those early days to the present have been rich and multifaceted. And from the mundane to the profound, in some, they've all had a really deep impact on me, I think on our community, and certainly on the family. And while Valentina and Mohammed continue to thank us from the bottom of their hearts for helping to rescue and support them, that feeling of immense gratitude is more than mutual. And what a gift this opportunity and these relationships have been.
From my experience as a volunteer coordinator for many years for Out of the Cold program and also for the Syrian Refugee Sponsorship Initiative, I heartily underscore the adage that Naomi referenced, that it takes a village. And it's absolutely true. There are so many tasks and so many roles needed to provide settlement services for a refugee family or for an individual. And Naomi, you did an amazing job of describing in great detail and painted a beautiful picture of what was involved in our case. You know, some of the tasks were small or time limited, like driving the family to a dentist appointment. And some had actually very little contact with the family, like sourcing furniture or finding skates. Some of the activities were sustained over a period of time, like tutoring the children in reading. And some were complex, like arranging for appropriate academic placements. And some promoted a deep connection, like having long social visits over Valentina and Sophia's delicious home-cooked meals, which I missed during the pandemic, and a game of cards, which Naomi is a master at. I have fond memories of driving with Sophia to help her learn some of those skills. Most tasks and activities were scheduled and they were planned ahead. On a very rare occasion, did arrangements change at the last minute, or were we needed to respond to an emergency? But all contributed to the successful and responsive initiative. There were many, many of us involved to address what was required, each participating in a way that fit for us. Some of us had a lot of time to devote. Some were very busy with very limited availability. Some were more comfortable helping from behind the scenes, and some wanted to be closely involved with the family. And whatever one's ability, expertise, interest, and personal comfort level, there was a vital place for our contributions. And the same will be true for this new sponsorship initiative. A well-orchestrated settlement process will be guided by good coordination. We had an excellent steering committee whose members brought various perspectives and talents. We were fortunate to attract fantastic enthusiasm from many Shul members who were eager to assist in big and small ways. They were well supported with clear tasks and timelines, guidelines, and contacts. And they were provided with a comprehensive volunteer orientation guide that covered issues such as the social and emotional issues faced by refugees who experienced trauma, cultural specifics, and pragmatic ideas about what to expect during contact with the family and how to organize and track settlement activities. It can be adapted and shared for this new project too. So the takeaway here is that no volunteer is left to operate alone or expect to have figured it out. Everyone is in this together. And every settlement experience is different, and each individual or group will have its own particular challenges and rewards. Our experiences with a family of 5 who were reunited with a loving and supportive family was already established here. This group of Eritreans will sponsor, I understand, as a group of individual men and 1 woman. I hope I have that right. And some may have journeyed perilously to Israel, and they all lived under difficult conditions there as unwanted others. They will likely come with painful stories and perhaps some mistrust and wariness. But they will also have drawn on tremendous personal resilience to survive and persevere, and perhaps have tapped into the strength of those around them. Having lived in Israel, they will already learn many things about adapting to a new culture, and no doubt have been touched by the kindness of strangers. That too will be carried in their baggage. To finally be truly welcomed and supported by a community will likely seem to them like a miracle. And Valentina has already shared the analogy that she shared with me, but it really touched me deeply this week when she said that finally being here was being able to drink a glass of clean, pure, and life-sustaining water. The settlement process will have its ups and downs, unpredictable challenges, and happy surprises. Flexibility and patience and cultural sensitivity will be required. But together with our wealth of talents and resources, as we have witnessed with our beloved Mohammed Hello family, so much can be accomplished. Being part of the settlement process with Valentina Mohammed and their children and Valentina's sister Sophia to get to know and care about them, to observe the wonderful generosity and kindness of our congregation has been a profoundly life-affirming experience. To see the family integrate so well and to flourish has been truly inspiring. The rewards have been immeasurable, and it's been a highlight of my life. If you're able to participate in this next sponsorship project, and I really hope you will, I wish you the very same. Over to you, Ken.
Hi, Shabbat Shalom, and thank you very much, Sharna, and thank you, Naomi, also for your Debar Torah, and everyone else has fortunately given us a lot of details about what's going to be happening in the future. Darkei Noam is already committed to welcoming asylum seekers from Israel. In 2018, our group, led by Darkei Noam members David McKee, Barbara Tamir, and Tina Silver, settled a family of 6 Eritreans when they arrived from Israel. As a result, Tina was named JICE Volunteer of the Year in 2020. 2 years ago, our board, with Rabbi Tina's endorsement, approved supporting the asylum seekers and assisting them when they arrive. In 2018 and again in 2019, over 50 members of Darkei Noam donated to our sponsorship campaigns, and we thank you for your generosity. Hi, Canadians Helping Asylum Seekers in Israel, which is our approved refugee sponsored group, currently has 12 volunteers. The majority are Darkei Noam members. Starting in a few months, we hope, coronavirus permitting, and over the next 2 years, we will be welcoming over 20 refugees. Some, as Sharna said, and the first ones to arrive will be single guys and a gal. Some will be families, and I think both families actually are on this call right now, and they'll be arriving hopefully later this year, next year, we don't know. But we will be welcoming kids and young adults. So obviously there is a great variety there. Some cases we are the sole sponsor, and in others we have partnered with other Toronto sponsors. We need help. We need you. Sharna and Naomi have explained some of the welcoming tasks. Whatever you feel comfortable with, that's okay. So it's simple. Can we count on you? If the answer is yes, it's very easy. Just send us a message in the chat. Say, count on me. Count me in. Whatever. Send the message to everyone. Send the message privately to me, privately to Suzanne. We will get back to you. We will know that you're interested, and we'll be able to expand our group. So send us a message. We'd love to be love to have you as part of this group. Let's do mitzvot, good deeds. When it's for strangers, it's the highest level of tzedakah, charitable acts in our ethical tradition. Let's do mitzvot together. Now to Rabbi Tina, who knows about refugee welcoming from very personal experience.
So, there's so much to say. We must be kind to strangers, for we were strangers in Egypt. And that commandment is repeated over and over through our sacred text. I come to mind this painting by Chagall, where Belarusian winter is depicted, and people are walking on the street, and yet across the skyline of the city, of the small city, an old Jew with a bag floating and kind of walking, not touching the ground, but above the skyline. And when analyzing this painting, why this human being is not touching the actual pavement, interpretation comes to mind that he won't be staying very long in the place where he is, and therefore he will transition from place to place, homeless, at times abused, hungry, looking for a home, at times frightened, but maybe deeply, very hopeful. Frightened and hopeful. In 1979, supported by Jayas, schlepping our Soviet bags across the Europe, we arrived to Indianapolis, Indiana airport. And there was a group of strangers who stood with a sign to us who did not speak a word of English except my sister, and said very warmly, "Welcome home. We are here for you." And people we've never seen before, never spoken before to, names who we could not remember the first time, and it took several times after meeting them and recognizing their smiles. It took us a while to comprehend that these strangers were actually our people, meaning humanity, meaning fellow Jews, meaning people with whom we had no blood relation, who made a decision that this embrace is vital. I'm often asked, what made me choose the work I do now? I could have become a lawyer. I could have become a doctor. I could have continued, run a hair salon. Why did I choose to become a rabbi? And I would say that the kernel of my desire to serve humanity and our people was planted in that airport on a day when someone I've never met said to me, "You're home. I don't know you, but I will do everything I can to help you root yourself in a world where you can find meaning and safety, inspiration, sustenance. It is from that world you will drink," Sophia beautifully put, clean, fresh water. One of my favorite quotes actually comes from a source that is outside of my tradition, but it sounds something like this: "The door to happiness opens outward." I'm going to repeat one more time. The door to happiness opens outward. I'm serving an extraordinary group of people and helping to sustain a community where values that are cherished to us, values of welcome, of equality, of warm embrace, of effort, of finding a place where everyone can bloom, a Jew and non-Jew. Our community is rooted in that open door that allows others to find the place. It is an honor. Suzanne Klein, Jody Black, Valentina, Naomi, Mahmoud, Safia, Sharna, Danny, and hundreds of others who's been part of this journey and the journey yet this community will take. I would like to say deepest, deepest gratitude to all of you for putting what was so important to you at the moment and find greater meaning in helping somebody else, whether you knew or did not know them. I also would like to thank thousands of volunteers whose names I never learned because I don't know them, who were on the background, filling out papers, making phone calls, picketed outside of embassies or consulate, made thousands and hundreds of phone calls to promote the cause of the refugee and solve homelessness, whose names I don't know and will never learn, but who paved the way for something beautiful that was created. To them, then named precious ones, deepest gratitude. Toda rabba. We were strangers in a foreign land, and you know what it's like. And therefore, we expand our embrace to others. Shabbat Shalom, Mazel Tov on this extraordinary occasion. Count on me personally, not only as your Rav, but also as a volunteer. Denny, sign me up. I can drive. And Suzanne, you're next.
Okay. Well, I guess I can't top what's been said. All I can say is get in touch with me. I'm in the membership list. As that old US recruiting poster said, I want you. I hope to see you. What I can tell you is two things. When I started working on the Syrian project, every day, as people poured out their support, I got younger. I got filled with the kind of energy that comes from seeing other people respond, from hearing other hearts beating with mine. And the second thing I can tell you is what I've discovered from having helped